Hello everyone and welcome to a new virtual pet video. In this video I'm going to be reviewing one of my favourite virtual pets, which is the Digimon Pendulum Progress. So I mentioned this a couple of days ago about how I was running it in hopes of sort of making another one of these review videos, and here it is. So the Pendulum Progress was released in 2002 for the first two versions, then the third version came out in 2003. And these are the three versions. I only have one of each colour, but we have the version 1, the 2, and the 3. So we've got the Dragon's Roar, Armageddon Army, and Animal Coliseum. And that can sort of show that, once again, each version of Virtual Pet is split up into a classification of Digimon. So while I do have all three of them here to display, I'm actually only running one at this present point in time because they're actually kind of demanding and difficult. So we'll just put the Dragon's Roar and Armageddon Army to the side. So that's the version 1 and 2. And if you'll notice, I have actually written a blog review style article about the Pendulum Progress before. I will link it in the description. And that last time I was running this one when I wrote that review. So this time I'm running my Animal Coliseum. So as you can see, LR44 batteries, as a lot of the vintage virtual pets tended to use. So you can see that I've got a pretty cool background, and yes, I do need to clean my devices. This one's looking a little bit dusty on the inside. It's kind of like in there, so I need to actually probably take it apart, do a good clean. So please forgive me, I do intend on cleaning my entire collection, just because some of them have a little bit of dust underneath that screen there. Anyway, so this is the version 3, and I've got Grismon, who I do not think will evolve. I say that because it's 6 years old now, so 6 days old, and the thing about the Pendulum Progresses is that they kind of tend to sleep in the closer they are to death. So this one just woke up and they tend to sleep until like after midday. So you kind of know when they're closer to death because of the later that they sleep. So if they sleep for longer than 12 hours, you know that your friend is probably about to die, and this is the last form you'll probably have them as. So yeah, so I'm not getting too perfect, but that's fine. I'll still write up this video review about this device because it's actually one of my favorites. It's definitely one of the most challenging devices, but it's so rewarding. It's not challenging in the way that the Nakocha is challengingly annoying. It's really rewarding because when you do get an evolution, it actually feels like it means something. So I tend to only get stuck on adult because they are quite demanding. You need to really get their battles up very quickly, and a lot of them have higher battles. Like I believe I had to get 50 battles, and I think I'm still on 30. So yeah, I'm on 39. But that just means that I haven't spent enough time. That's 39 wins, by the way, and I'll get to more about the battle system in just a second. So yeah, they're quite challenging. So first, you'll notice that we have a big sprite. It has the full screen. There's no icons on the top or the bottom there. So you actually navigate in a menu here. And that's how you navigate that menu. It's not in the icons here, and that means that there's no call icon, which makes it surprisingly hard to count how many care mistakes you've made because you can't just wait for the call icon to go out. You actually have to pay attention to the animation. It'll do an angry animation if it wants something, and it'll call out for food, it'll call out for the strength meter, or it will actually, and this is quite nifty I think, it'll actually call out if it wants to fight. So it'll look kind of angry, and all both hunger and strength bars will be full. And it's actually asking you to train it or battle it because it wants to fight. And I think this was actually the first virtual pet to actually introduce a coliseum or battle mechanic, so you don't actually have to connect to get the battles up. So we go to training here and we go to battle. We'll actually get a battle to basically fight. And what I was saying earlier about how that was the 39 wins and how that's 100% is that you'll actually see that losses do not count in that ratio there. So only your wins count. When you connect to another virtual pet, that does count the losses. So it's only when you're actually just doing the fight on the actual pet itself. So the way that this goes is you'll fight 3 champion level Digimon. It depends on what device, what Digimon you get to fight. It's Greymon on the Dragon's Roar, it's Angemon on the Armageddon Army, and it's Garurumon on the Animal Coliseum. And once you defeat that Digimon, I think it's around 3 times, you'll have to fight a perfect level Digimon. So usually the evolution after the champion level Digimon. So Were Garurumon X on the Animal Coliseum, Metal Greymon on the Dragon's Roar, and I think it's probably Holy Angemon on the Armageddon's Army. And once you do that, you then have to fight the fully evolved form, which, I can't remember if it's 50 or 100 or maybe even 25, but that's what you have to fight after that. And if you get through 100 battles, you get a special ranking, and then if you get over 1,000 battles, you get another special ranking. And and with that championship ranking, it actually increases your overall stats as well. So that's fairly cool. You can't skip out of the battles once they've begun, so that's something I miss from the newer Digimon, that you can skip through the battles. So I can actually cancel out of it in the second battle, so another Garurumon shows up, I'll cancel out of that. So when I'm talking about stats, that's under the stat screen, and see, I've now won 40 battles, so maybe if I get it up to 50 today, I might still have a chance of evolving it, but let's see. So we have the stat screen here, and this actually increases, and there's a max for each Digimon, obviously, but you can actually wait on and train it and keep on checking back to see how each Digimon is growing. And that's pretty nifty, especially if you're entering a tournament with it, like on Digimon Online. And I actually won my first Digimon Online tournament with All Force Veedramon on the Dragon's Roar. And basically I had to get the championship status I was talking about earlier on the from winning all those battles. And I think there was also Master... I think one of them's called Master as well. I can't remember if it's Master and then Champion or Champion and then Master, but it's one or the other. And the easy thing is about once you get to a fully evolved Digimon, you don't actually have to shake. You can just get 0 shakes and then just leave it to fight the 1,000 battles or however many battles you want to get it to have. And it'll just keep on going until it loses. So I basically had it in my pocket for like a couple of hours, and it was just battling on its own as All Force Veedramon. So that is the easy thing about it, is that you don't really, once you get to a certain strength, you don't really need to shake it. You might for the ultimate, when I say ultimate, I mean mega in the English version evolution, you might have to shake it then, but yeah, it's pretty... That's pretty useful, how you don't have to actually shake it, and it'll just autoplay. It won't time out. You don't have to input any buttons. It'll just keep on going, and that's pretty neat. Another thing that is fairly interesting about this device is that it actually has cross-device jogress. Now, don't get excited. It doesn't mean you can necessarily jogress with a pendulum. It means you can actually jogress with the D-Scanner Digivice, provided you have a compatible Digimon on that toy, and I do intend on reviewing that one day, but I need to actually get the scanning mechanic down. So if you have a certain Digimon on that, for example, if you have Stingmon on the D-Scanner and XVmon on the version, the Dragon's Roar version, for example, you can actually jogress to get Paildramon, and that's pretty cool. Like, I do like the fact that they use jogress, but they sort of added the tie-in of, hey, if you have the D-Scanner, you can jogress more. Some Digimon can't jogress. You can tell that by if you go to the stat screen And you go to this one, if it's got an X next to the J, that means you can't Jogress. So Grismon can't actually Jogress, so I need to actually evolve it naturally to get to perfect. But some Digimon can Jogress, and they can either Jogress with other progresses, or as I said, Jogress with the D-Scanner. So yeah, there's a lot to like, and there's not much to complain about this device other than general, it's hard, it's demanding. There is a weird sort of, I don't know what causes it. I haven't seen it on the version 3, but I've seen it on my version 1, and that is, for some reason, it will sleep at random times, and I don't know what causes that. I've heard it is the internal battery not being good, or just the device itself just being old, but that's the only bug there is, and usually they're meant to sleep longer if you have care mistakes, or as I said, closer to death. But when it's a baby sleeping, like randomly deciding it's time to sleep in the afternoon, it makes it fairly annoying, especially because the Digimon that you get is actually relating not only to the usual care mistakes and battles, but also when you train it. So if you train it in the morning or noon or the evening, you'll get 3 different Digimon. So it depends on how often you train it and in what time you train it, and that's fairly interesting. But it's annoying if your Digimon decides that it's bedtime during those times. So it means that you might only be able to easily get the Digimon that evolves from a Digimon that is trained in the afternoon. But as I said, I don't know what causes it, and I don't think I've seen it on the version 3. Whether or not they fixed it in between version releases, I'm not sure, but it just is something that's slightly annoying. But anyway, what can I do? Another thing that's a little bit different is that when you go to the sound settings, it is, instead of just being a toggle, you actually have to select on and off, which is annoying because it actually makes sound when you go to that menu, and to navigate that makes sound, and I like it when it's just pressing the 2 buttons and then there's no sound, it just mutes. And I kind of like that, and this one is kind of like, oh, okay, it still makes a sound when I want it to be muted, so I have to mute it before I want it to be silent, if that makes sense. I'm just going to check my original post to see if I'm missing out on saying anything particularly important. I remember in my original post I said I couldn't work out the shakes for training. That's fine. Each Digimon has a specific count to get a certain result, and this is not new to any of the pendulums. I guess I was just new in general. I mentioned the weird sleep issue. The stat screen I like. Oh yes, the version 3 has a pause feature. I don't actually know how to get to it, but it does actually have a pause feature. But yes, I don't know how to get to it, but that is definitely something that's different in the version 3. So again, they might have actually fixed that bug that I mentioned earlier in this version. And yeah, so besides that, that's more or less everything there is to mention about the Pendulum Progress. It is, as I said, one of my favourite virtual pets, but I don't talk about it much because I haven't actually risen it that much. It's just kind of, as I said, it's demanding. I once tried to run all 3, and I think I got 1 to perfect, and the rest just stayed at adults. And they are hard. It is hard to run all 3 of them. Even if it's hard to just want to run one of them, honestly. But yeah, I really do like this virtual pet, and I like the big screen. I like the big sprites. I don't really miss the call icon that much. I don't miss the icons at the top. I think I'd rather have the bigger sprites. I don't know. I do like the big 32 by 16 screen as opposed to I think it's 16 on 16 screen. Wait, no, the screen on the other ones are 32 by 16 and the sprites are 16 by 16. And then the sprites on this one are 32 by 32. So it's using a lot more of that screen space, and the sprites basically take up the entire screen. But yeah, so that's basically what I have to say. They are very fun, but also very challenging. But because they're challenging, as I said, they're actually really rewarding. the version 3 is also really expensive, so I'm really glad I got this, because even though it was expensive at the time I got it, it is a lot more expensive now. But hey, it's fun, and I really should run them more because it's nice. As I said, it's rewarding, and if a rewarding virtual pet is what you're going for, I definitely recommend picking up one of the versions. I think the version 1's actually my favorite, but I'm probably biased because, as I said, I won my first Digimon Online Championship with tournament rather with Ulforce Vegemon on that. But yeah, so in terms of ratings, for enjoyment, I give it a 7. For ease of use, I think I'm going to have to give it a 4. I was kind of tossing up between a 3 or a 4, but I think I'm going to give it a 4, and the rating is the same for all 3 of the versions. It's just a little bit challenging, but it's not a huge amount of challenging. It's just like, it's demanding. You need to actually pay attention to it, which isn't that bad. And I'm just bad at virtual pets, and I guess I can't just say, oh, it's hard because I'm bad. But anyway, so yeah, 7 for enjoyment and 4 for ease of use. And yeah, so I hope that video answered any questions you had about the Pendulum Progress. I will link my post that I did about a year ago in the description, and let me know what you think. Do you have a Pendulum Progress? Do you like running it? Would you agree with my review ratings? Let me know, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!